My name is Alex Yeager. I was the visual effects art director for Industrial Light and Magic on this movie. It was actually one of the first things I've art directed. It was back when I was 23. So what we have here is the Borg Queen construction sequence. During the production of this film, I was up here at ILM working on many of the space battle animatics while a lot of this design was going on down in LA. Just in going over the storyboards and looking at some of the sequences that were coming up, I started to have a few ideas of my own, having not seen much of this artwork early on, which led to a piece of concept art that will come up here in a little bit, much similar to the ones here that John Eves illustrated, where the upper half of her body comes down on tubes and the lower half is waiting in the wings. This is more of the final one that Deborah Everson designed. And at the time, I wasn't really aware that was going on, and I was meanwhile up at ILM doing this piece of artwork using one of my coworkers, Mary Ann Heath, and that became kind of a popular image. This I remember because John Knoll got mad at me for not putting a date on this, and the reason being just so that we could claim the credit for coming up with this idea. But this was something that, in tossing around how to do this shot and try and get most of it practical, came up with the idea of using a false front and having the rest of the actress kind of on a ramp behind it with a blue screen sock on, and then having this prosthetic body waiting down at the bottom, and then somewhere in there make a transition. This is one of several iterations that I did. Mainly involved the amount of tubes that brought the queen down from the ceiling. The first couple versions had, hundreds of tubes and dozens, and then finally just down to these three. And this was just one of the storyboard sequences I did just to illustrate this scene. And originally, this was all going to be one long, continuous shot. And unfortunately, in the movie, there's a cut when she settles in. But we did this all from the very beginning as if it was going to be one big, long shot where she comes down out of the ceiling and then locks into the body and walks away.
Hello, I'm John Knoll. I'm the visual effects supervisor at ILM on Star Trek First Contact. The methodology that we came up with to do this was to have her be able to lean forward and attach a prosthetic piece that Todd Masters and his group built that could attach up to the neckline, would provide kind of a synthetic shoulders and spinal column, that we would have her in some kind of harness that could either be dropped by a wire rig or on a crane.
That is a contradiction.
Ultimately, to be able to get some cross movement, some movement across frame, we decided to mount her on a crane and then drop her down into the body and have her walk forward. To do this, we decided it was necessary to shoot her in two separate pieces. So one would be her mounted on the crane with this prosthetic piece attached at her neck, and that would be dropping down to connect to about where the body was going to be. Then we'd shoot another piece that was her in her full body makeup with the costume, sort of matched in position to where she ended up, and then walking forward from there. So those were the two primary pieces. The next step was to kind of work out a transition from one to the other and to remove all the rest of the apparatus that we didn't want to see in the first part. In order to be able to repeat the camera move so that we could do it as all one continuous fluid motion, we elected to shoot this with a motion control system. And because she was delivering dialogue, it was very important that we have a very quiet motion control system. The motion control systems typically run off of stepper motors that are very noisy. They make different pitched noises, sort of almost musical tones. And because there's dialogue going on that we wanted to record, we wanted to have a very quiet system. So we converted it all over to servo motors so that it was as quiet as we could make it. And we got a very quiet, blimped VistaVision camera so that there would be no camera noise as well. And the kind of amusing thing was that when I showed up on the set there to shoot it that day, the crane that she was mounted on was itself extremely noisy. So then all the dialogue had to be looped afterwards. There I am watching the video tap. Okay, here you can see Alice in this crane rig where she's leaning forward into the prosthetic arrangement. You can see her shoulders and spinal column or our Todd Masters prosthetic piece. So here we are dropping her down into what we worked out to be a good end position for the next part of the shot.
Cut. And marker. And mark. Cut. Ready. Landing.
Now this is the second half of the shot where we've got her in her full body costume, then walking forward. We photographed a little bit of an overlap between the two where I could make the transition. Here's the motion control camera shooting the clean background plate. So we repeated another pass with no one in frame, and that allowed us to have the background behind where Alice was going to be. So when we removed the crane, we had something to go back there.
Landing. 1, 2, 3.
I am the Borg.
Greetings.
This is the A plate. This is the first part. Alice dropping down on the crane. This is the second piece. This is Alice in the full body costume, then matched in position and then walking up to the foreground. And now here we've already removed the crane and the rest of the apparatus. And this is a first pass at starting to put the cables in, that suspender. And then there's her body from the second part. This is a match move in progress. We're matching the motion of her body so that we can attach these cables at her shoulder. Work in progress on the transition from side A to side B. This is the morph in progress, where we're switching between the first plate and the second. Okay, this is the composite in progress. We have the computer-generated cables attaching to her shoulders. We have the morph happening. Here the morph is already in progress. And now it is complete. A great deal of work went into doing this shot so that it was one complete seamless piece where we look up, we see her coming down, it goes all the way down through all the dialogue into fitting into the suit, closing up, and then walking forward and ending in a two-shot with Data. In the end, it was kind of amusing to see that after all that work, they'd cut it into two pieces. And if we'd known that in advance, that it was going to be cut in half here, it would have saved us a great deal of grief in putting this together.
Are you ready?
Who are you?
I am the Borg.
That is a contradiction. The Borg have a collective consciousness. There are no individuals.
I am the beginning, the end, the one who is many. I am the Borg.
Greetings.